So I'm getting ready to introduce our guest for tonight. Y'all know I love my caregivers. I am 10 toes down for y'all. I want to make sure that you have all the support that you need when you need it. My channel is open 24/7 to you and to your family, to your loved ones, because we know that we have to wrap our arms around each other. But it gets tough, right? It gets tough. And I need for you all to have the love and the care and the compassion in order for you to be able to give it to someone else. So I invited my friend, Miss Tina Lifford, to join me tonight on the platform, and she obliged as she entered. Everybody just give her a digital round of applause. Hey, Tina, can you hear me and see me really good?
I, I I can see you perfectly and I can hear you well. How about you, me?
Yeah, you look beautiful as always. I had to get myself together because I couldn't be coming on here half stepping, you know? We already have some participants or viewers. We got Kimberly from Inglewood, California. We got Carrie Green from Southwest. She's gonna tell me exactly what Southwest, where that is from. You know what city and state. We got Sharon from Jonesboro, Georgia. So they're coming in from all over. So look, before we get into this conversation that's going to bless all of our souls, I want to introduce Miss Tina Lifford. Now, Tina began her career acting in 1983. She starred in cultural hits like South Central, The Temptations, Scandal, Parenthood, and most recently, she played America's Aunt Vi on OWN's Queen Sugar. She's also recognized as a playwright. She's a CEO of the Inner Fitness Project, a personal development network that teaches individuals to focus more on thriving than on surviving. She desires to inspire people from all walks of life to invest in their emotional well-being and acts on their dreams so that they can feel less stressed and respond to life with more personal power, insight, and wisdom. Her most recent work, The Inner Fitness Revolution, is out now. And in her words, this shift works. I love that, Tina.
Dr. Macie, it's so nice to be with you again. Thank
I
you for
know.
inviting me and hello to your community.
Oh, thank you for calling them that because it truly is a community. We got
Yeah.
Coco chiming in from Florida. So let's jump right into it, Tina. When we spoke last, the last I've seen you, what has been going on in your world? I know that you lost your mom. I think it was the latter
Right.
part of last year.
That's right.
And as I stated online to you, my condolences to you and your family. But I just gotta say, you and your sisters, y'all were wonderful care partners.
Yes, we
You
were.
all were the epitome
Yes,
of a care partner.
that's exactly right.
How has your world been since you lost your mom?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to speak candidly, and I give you that little caveat because my experience is not what one might think,
Mm.
right? My mom actually passed this time last year, so it's been about a year, right? And And I love my mom. I can't even put it in past tense. I love my mom. And it's really easy for me to keep it in present tense because in an odd way, I don't feel like my mom is gone.
Yeah.
I know I can't walk into the room that she lived in, and I know I can't kiss her. And I know I can't hear her well, I do hear her little chuckle, and I hear her talking all the time. And I say that to say, I don't know. Well, certainly, all of us experience things differently,
Mm.
but I am open to life and death being different than the way we have been taught to experience it.
Wow.
And that openness leaves me not feeling lost. I mean, I think it's easier to not feel lost when you're blessed that your mom got to 93. My mom was
Wow.
93 years old, right?
Yeah.
So, and I there was nothing unsaid between my mom and I, and there truly was love. So, I when we say yes to life, we also say yes to death.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
I always say, everybody wants to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die.
Well,
So that's
it's
impossible.
ridiculous, right? It actually, Dr. Macie, it sets us up for failure, and it sets us up
Mm,
to be in a antagonistic relationship with life where we're always afraid that the inevitable is going to happen.
right. Right. And you talk about grieving, and I like that you're talking about your mom in present tense. When we think about this caregiving community, most of the caregivers here are caring for someone living with a progressive type of dementia. And they're going through anticipatory grief. So the people who they see in front of them, who they've once known, and I do like air quotes like once known because the cognitive is changing, but the physical is still there. How do they grieve or feel all their feels, their emotions, their anger, their angst, their guilt? How do they feel all of that emotionally, but still show up in the present? And I'm sure your new book, The Inner Fitness Revolution, because you titled it Revolution for a reason. I think that
Yes,
you are revolutionizing, really, as
that's
you
right.
stated earlier, the way we were ingrained and taught and
That's right.
conditioned
That's right.
to view and feel things.
That's right. That's right. That's right. In the inner fitness revolution, I say that the pain is in the premise.
Mm,
If we have been taught that we are supposed to fall down and cry and feel like life has done us wrong anytime we lose someone that we love or we lose a job, whatever we are taught to do, that's how we are going to meet the moments that are coming.
mm,
And we talk about God all the time. And my question is, how do we invite the nature and the idea of God into every single moment, including this caregiving moment? How do we do that? Because if we start to ask ourselves questions that we haven't left room for in the past,
mm.
we might actually experience something different than our history.
Yeah.
Does
I
that
love
make
that.
sense?
It does. It's very thought provoking. You mentioned something early, and I want to go to your book here. You talked about, caregivers being strong, right? Feeling strong. They want to feel the emotions, but they don't feel like they can, right? Because they don't want their loved one to feel as if they're a burden to them, because they love their loved one. They love their mom, they love their sister, they love their spouse, but they're still human, right? And they still want
Right,
to show up strong.
right.
But in the inner fitness revolution, you redefine strength as something rooted in presence, not
Yeah,
performance. That's
yes.
powerful. What does that exactly mean as it relates to someone being emotionally strong while still holding on to and honoring their humanity?
Yeah, you said it. You know, when we accept that we are human, then we accept that this human apparatus has a lot of built in mechanisms for our good, and our feelings are one of those mechanisms. We would not have feelings if feelings didn't have a purpose in our lives.
Mm,
And so we have been taught, you know, to want to distance ourselves from feelings. but our feelings are actually our path to our wholeness.
Wow.
If you are feeling something and you acknowledge your feeling, you send a message to your subconscious, the deepest part of you, that says you are present, you are aware of where you are. And when you are present with yourself, you always have more strength. When we are running from ourselves, when we are running, we are telling ourselves subconsciously that we can't handle
Mm,
what is present. And if we are telling ourselves that we can't handle what is present, first, it's a lie
yeah.
because
Come on.
we are so much more than we give ourselves credit for. And this incredible body was built with everything it needs to move through life and thrive. So when we take emotions and we distort them into ideas that really are just connected to the ego,
Mm,
right? When we tell ourselves we can't handle this or that, we're basically saying we don't want to deal with that change.
mm.
We don't want to have to look at and feel because we've made up some story in our minds about feeling.
And does that bring on a sense of failure? Like premature or premeditated failure?
Well, it's interesting because you talked about anticipatory pain, right?
Mm,
If we are waiting for that shoe to drop, if we are expecting the worst, if there is all of these hurtful and painful ideas that are running through our minds, where is the room inside of us for a different possibility?
right.
We are rehearsing pain.
Oh,
We are in the habit of somebody else's idea of life. Where and how do we step into our own experience? And that's what the revolution is all about, Dr. Macie. It's like, how do we give ourselves space
hmm.
to experience ourselves anew?
Yeah. So
And
it's not somebody else holding space for us, but it's holding space for ourselves.
it is absolutely us holding space
Hmm.
for ourselves. It's us. Just imagine what would happen if all of us who are dealing with or have the duty and the responsibility and the weight of caregiving. What if we went into that experience with like 5 rules, right?
Okay.
Rule number one is I will pay attention to when my body, mind, heart, and spirit are in overwhelm. And when that happens, step back and take care of myself. Rule number two, what would happen if I went into this experience knowing that no matter what the feelings are that I encounter, if I name them, say it out loud, it helps me to be present with where I am. And it is a very subliminal and subtle way of taking care of myself.
Wow.
And so I say, if I might give an example,
Yeah.
I say, okay, talking out loud, because if we're talking out loud, we're talking to something greater than ourselves. We're
Come
talking
on.
to something that is listening,
Come on.
right? We're talking to something that responds to us in a loving way. So if I say, okay, God, I am overwhelmed, I'm tapped out, I'm mad, I am so frustrated by this. I want to be more present, but I feel myself just being angry. If you just acknowledge where you are, it makes room for something else.
Wow.
If we don't want to acknowledge it, now our energy is being used by some idea that's judging us, that's making the whole situation, our lives, life in general, and God wrong in some way. When we don't acknowledge, we create a pressure and a fight inside of us that uses our energy and just makes us more of what we're running from, more angry, more afraid, more uncertain. But if you just say, and I swear, I really encourage you all to try it, you just say, I'm feeling scared right this moment.
Yeah. I always say you cannot fix what you don't face. I'm almost wondering if that whole experience, that you just talked about. I'm thinking, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that it's mostly rooted in women. I will say, am I wrong in saying that? I'm gonna tell you why I say that. Okay, you posted something recently. You were all dolled up, which you are, but you had extra dolling this time, and you went over to your sisters and you said, your sister said, "Oh, you think you cute, right?"
Mhm.
Let me tell you what I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say, "No, I just put this on. It's just something I put on. I just nothing big, right?" Downplaying it, but you said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I know I'm cute, right?" That is empowering. And I'm wondering because that's just what women do. Oh, I like your outfit. Oh, this whole thing. Like it's
Yeah.
immediate, like how you talked about rehearsing pain. It's like immediate downplaying yourself,
Yes.
downplaying
Yes.
your light. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Dimming your light. Do you
Yes.
find that that's more relevant in women? Women tend to do that?
You know, I, I think yes. Okay, I'm going to say yes, just blanketly. But I've run into a lot of men who have a difficult time telling their wives the truth, like their real truth, because they're not supposed to be feeling certain feelings,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
There's a certain image of what it means to be a man and to be strong. And if you step outside of that image, then you're afraid of being judged, or you're afraid that you're not man enough, or whatever. And I think that what we're really talking about is that we owe it to ourselves to develop a relationship with ourselves that is as active as the relationship that we have with
Anybody
anyone
else?
else. If you have a best friend, if you know what it means to be a best friend, then one of those five things is to start today being your best friend. Because in times of difficulty and trouble, then you can talk to yourself
Mm,
the way you would talk to your best friend.
yeah,
You can tell yourself the truth. Even if you don't tell everybody else what your truth is, you tell yourself the truth like you would with your best friend.
yeah.
You give yourself grace like you would with your best friend.
Yeah, it's
And when
almost
we
like my
do,
grandmama would say, if you want a friend, you gotta be a friend.
that's it. That's it. And thank goodness my family, we all know the power of affirming ourselves, and it's not egotistical,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, when you do the work that it takes to be a good person, a um, just a fully present person, then you get to own that
yeah.
because you've worked for it,
And you
right?
deserve it.
Yes, you've worked for it.
I love
You
that.
know?
So we have TT here. TT celebrating moment. She says, so good. She said, she's just now learning how to manage her self-care while giving care. Like, and I think a part of that, Tina, is to your point, giving yourself permission to
That's right.
say, I deserve this. I work hard for this. I deserve it. Why is it so difficult for women to accept, a break, to accept the good things, to accept things that are gonna lift them up. Well, lift us up. I'm a woman, yeah.
Hmm.
But it's so hard for us to accept that we will lift another woman up in a second. But when it comes to us, it's so difficult. Why is that? Because that's gonna affect our day to day. It's gonna affect other experiences. It's gonna affect the way people experience us.
That's right. That's right. But it goes back to the saying that I use in the book: pain is in the premise. If we tell ourselves that affirming ourselves is egotistical and it makes us look, some kind of way that we don't want to look, if we tell ourselves that, then of course we're not going to affirm ourselves.
Yeah.
But if we tell ourselves, what if we were to tell ourselves that we were made by something far greater than us that chose us because we have a deep DNA and a fingerprint and an iris that nobody else has, and that our life is meant to affirm this higher thing, this greater intelligence, this, I call it God. If
Yeah.
we are good in the eyes of something far greater than us, then when we knock ourselves down, when we tell ourselves lies, when we lower our sense of self to fit somebody else's lower idea of self,
Hmm.
what are we doing in our relationship with something greater?
I like that you said lower, what someone else's perception of us in a lower sense. We allow that to penetrate, our lives. And it's, in general, that's not an ideal space to be in, but especially when, people are looking up to you to provide for their life, health, and strength. So many of our caregivers are dealing with burnout, as you can imagine, compassion fatigue, the inability to feel empathy. Now, in your practice, what inner strategies or inner practices from your book that could help this population dealing with that level of compassion fatigue and burnout, like shift into a more positive space? To whereas, because we know that the people who leaning on them and trusting them, the energy is real, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
that caregiver's energy is off and negative,
yeah.
then that person is going to respond to that with negativity. What inner practices can you share from the
Yeah.
book for that?
So, within the book, The Inner Fitness Revolution, there are 14 inner health and well-being practices. And I'm going to start with practice number 14.
Oh,
And it says, practice number 14 says that I cultivate social connections where I feel safe, seen, and heard. I highly recommend that every single caregiver have a place where they can feel safe, seen, and heard. So there's lots of communities where you can, 1 hour a week, you can give to yourself. We have a community at the Inner Fitness Project where you can pour into yourself. You can take time and just be present for you. And then those other, hours of the week, you can have more fuel to pour into someone else.
oh,
Practice number one is I practice turning my life over to a force greater than me or a power greater than me that loves me and responds to my heart. So be present to what your needs are. If you are tired, say out loud,
Mm.
I'm tired. How can I get some rest? How can I get a break? How can I find 5 minutes, 10 minutes that belong to me? When you are actively in conversation with yourself and your higher power, you will feel better. You'll feel less alone. Um, as you begin to pour into yourself, I really, really believe in, I've already said it, but I'll tell you the practice that it is. Practice number 10. I become a great parent and friend to myself. So if your loving parent or mate or whomever walked into a room and saw you or someone else dead, tired, and beat, what would they say to you? Loving you, they would say something loving and encouraging, like, honey, it's time to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you need to go eat something. Or you just need to take 5 minutes and do a time out for yourself. Make sure that you are that person who is walking into the room and seeing yourself over there needing something.
You know what? It's making me think about like the flip side or turn around to a colloquialism or saying, you know how we talk about do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What you're saying is do unto yourself what you would
That's right.
do unto someone else. And it's so simple in thinking about it, but it's
Yes.
complex because the way in which we have been conditioned. So you have given our caregivers permission this evening to put themselves first. If y'all have questions or comments or y'all want to shout out Tina, put it in the chat. I'm going to let her know what y'all are saying and who it's coming from. I mean, that's huge because they have the power already inside of them. So you write in your book, your life is always speaking to you. How can caregivers start listening to their life or even the life that they want? Because as you know, caregiving is a very isolating role, and it is a
Yep.
role, it is a
Yep.
job,
Yep.
but it's a well meaningful job, right? And it's a job that most people want. They don't want anybody else to do it. They want to do it for themselves and for their loved ones, but it does take a toll. It brings about emotional, mental, and physical depletion. How can you instill in them or motivate them or give them some initiation that they can reconnect to the life that they once had before caregiving? It may look a little different, but it can be just as fulfilling.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we understand the difference between a moment in time or a stretch in time and a forever state.
Wow.
I think that when we find ourselves in overwhelm, that is lasting a year or 2 years or even, 5 or 10 years, however long that is, we can become overwhelmed by the idea that this is never going to end. And just that idea adds weight and overwhelm and
Mm.
can even move us into depression.
Yeah.
So, to actually remind ourselves that this is a moment in time and a stretch in time versus a forever state helps us to be in the present moment and not make the present moment our forever.
Oh, I love that.
And at the same time, we can again, I'm really big on talking to ourselves because we are listening to ourselves,
Mhm.
and take note of how we are talking to ourselves. If you are sucking your teeth and, upset and, your nerves are frayed and on edge, take a moment and in your journal, if you don't have a journal, I encourage you to get a journal because a journal is one of those places where you can tell yourself the truth
Mm.
And you don't have to speak it to someone else. You can just be present with how you're feeling. And you can also use your journal to just not only state how you're feeling in the moment, but to envision how you would like to be. Setting an intention is a powerful thing. We
Yeah.
all have done it, and it has supported us, all of us, in one way or another. So, if you find yourself short and you're beating yourself up about that, sit down and just write an intention, and write it like you're asking the universe that has the answers for you. Your God has the answers for you, and you just write, so how can I feel more supported and less overwhelmed?
Yeah. Yeah.
You say, how can I feel more supported and less overwhelmed? I want to caregive in a way where my light adds joy. My light adds a sense of safety. My caregiving is full of love. If those are your intentions and yet your emotions are in the way,
Mm.
when you write it as an intention, you put your internal self on notice of who you want to be. And now that being on notice is going to, you know, remind you. It's going to shake you when you fall into those places that are just reacting. It's going to help you remember what your intention is, and that'll be helpful.
Oh, and I'll say too, not only helpful, but hopeful. Because when it's
Yeah.
written, it's real. You know, caregivers are chiming in. Valerie says she is watching and listening right now with her mama, who was diagnosed with having dementia. TT is saying that she is certainly going to purchase the book today because
Yeah.
beyond caring for others, this will help us love ourselves better, which is absolutely
Yes.
necessary. Oh, I am getting chills. Uh,
Yes.
Let me tell you something. You know, a lot of times, especially when caregivers don't choose to be a caregiver or find themselves in a position in life, whether they're a caregiver or not, that they don't want to be in. I mean, that mind is a powerful thing. When they start thinking that it's over, it's done, the perception of what may be, and they're viewing it and experiencing it in real time as if it's now, you know, that puts them in a state of, to me, and these are just my words, it puts them in a state of hopelessness and helplessness. And when you lose
That's right.
hope, you lose life. And I
That's
can't
right.
have that. I can't have that on my watch, Tina. And I know you
That's
can't
right.
have that on
That's
your
right.
watch too. So to be able to tell uh, my caregivers tonight that they can set their own intentions by writing it
That's right.
down, putting
That's
themselves
right.
first, and having a safe space where they can actually be there for
Yes.
themselves first. You
Yes.
know, I want you to tell them how they can join uh, the Inner Fitness Project. But I mean, it's a community. You have a community
Yeah.
of like-minded women, and I'll tell you, I'm just gonna be honest. We speak in truth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
often afraid. You know, people say, you know, Dr. Macie, you're not afraid. I am afraid. I pray every time before I go on anybody's stage, before I click
Yeah.
this live button to talk to
Yeah.
you, just
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
sure that what I'm
Yeah.
saying and what I'm doing is in line with my purpose and what he has me to
Yeah.
do. But when it comes to my inner feelings, I am so afraid to get
Yeah.
in touch with them. I got your first
Yeah.
book, and it was like I had to close it because it was so piercing, but it made me a better person, I feel,
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
how I engage with other people, because now I'm able to get in tune with my feelings, something that I wanted
Yeah.
to just cover up and not, it's almost like I don't want anybody to see what I'm feeling. But
Yes.
you know who I didn't want to see what I was feeling?
You.
Myself.
Yes. 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 And listen, listen. When we hide from ourselves, let me say this in a really succinct way. The pain that we carry is based on a lie.
Mm,
Someone did something or said something that made us feel like and you can fill in the blank, like we don't matter, like we're not good enough, like we're not smart, or whatever it is. And so that is a lie. But we took that lie on like it's the truth.
mm,
And because we have this wrong and erroneous and misconceived idea of ourselves, we don't want to look at ourselves because we're afraid that we will see our unworthiness.
mm.
But the unworthiness is not real, it's a lie. And the most important thing that we can do is to look at ourselves and begin to see that lie trying to live our lives.
Mm.
I used to be very, covering my feelings. We learn to do that as human beings, and certainly with our ancestry and history with slavery, it was really important that you didn't show your feelings. But our feelings, I love this piece of science. So we have discovered, science has discovered that black holes are things that help the universe evolve.
Mm.
Our feelings help us to become that next best iteration of ourselves. But we can't get to the very thing we want by stepping over ourselves. We have to actually use the wisdom of our feelings so that our feelings can show us where we are and help us to move into that next higher place. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes all the sense in the world. It's almost like it's in the back of the brain, but you just always pull it forward. You pull it forward in real time to make it very tangible for us to actually
Yes.
be able to grasp. And when we feel like we can
Yes.
grasp it, then we can actually put it into practice, because so many of us deal with the superwoman syndrome. Can't nobody do it like I can do it. But while you're going through that, you are wearing and tearing your temple
That's right.
down.
That's right. You're wearing and tearing your temple down. You're not in honest relationship with anyone
Mm.
because you're not being honest with yourself.
Right, because you can't do it all. No
you,
one
you
person can do it all.
and you don't want to.
Don't thank you. Thank you.
You
You
don't
know,
want to.
speaking of which, their families now are a lot smaller than what they used to be. It's not 10
Yes.
and 15 kids anymore. I have families that I work with now who maybe one child, or maybe the seniors didn't have any children at all. They have no siblings, and it's just them and maybe that one child. So the support is lacking in many of our communities. How can you and the Inner Fitness Project help support those who are in need, especially women? Because I don't know if are men invited to the cookout or no?
Yeah, yeah, they're invited, and I suspect that in the years to come, they will show up in droves because inner fitness is meant to live in the world the same way physical fitness lives in the world. We have a workout, which is, you can just think about a physical fitness workout. Well, we do 1 hour at a time workouts, and they are not emotional workouts. They are you spending quality time with yourself, and they wind up being like the salve that you just so need on a sore that just won't heal. It's
Yeah.
you being in an affirmative relationship with yourself. So we have a workout coming up May the 3rd, 8 a.m. Pacific time, and you can go to the innerfitnessproject.com and find out more about that.
Okay, we put
Um,
that in the chat. Morgan, look, we got Morgan here. Look at Morgan. Morgan said that part I don't want to. Morgan, if you can put that website in the chat for our viewers, that would be wonderful.
and here's what I want. People are always talking about the work. I am never talking about the work and how hard it is, because have you, or we all know people who have had babies,
Hmm.
and as soon as they pop that baby out, that pain that they were feeling goes away. The amount of pain is nothing compared to the joy, to the sense of expansion, to the sense of self, to the sense of connection. I like to say, when you know yourself, you are empowered. And when you accept yourself, you are invincible.
Woo!
It's
Woo!
true. It's true.
Oh my God! You just don't
It's,
know what that just did for me. For
because
me.
yes, yes, yes. Uh, you can't tell me something about myself that I don't already know. You can't tell me. So you and your opinion can't hold me hostage,
Oh my
because
God.
I am in relationship with myself. You can't you can't
Mm.
withhold from me, because I am giving to myself. So the idea of being invincible is not that superwoman idea.
Mm.
It's quite the opposite.
In
It's the
reverse.
I it is it is I know I'm human. I accept that I'm human, and I use my humanness to grow into more of who I am every single second of the day.
You better
And when
say
you
it, Tina.
and when we live life like that over at the Inner Fitness Project, what we are about is we're about, someone would say, okay, so what are the benefits? Well, the benefits are that you get to know that your inner self is real and it's freaking powerful,
Woo.
that you get to have a relationship with yourself that elevates you beyond what you do and how you perform for others. You get to see yourself and begin to choose if this is what you want to do for your life with your time, as who you are. You get to honor that your feelings matter,
Yeah.
that your consideration of yourself is not just necessary, it is the appropriate path for making the best choices in our lives.
I love
We
it.
must embrace ourselves. If we do not embrace ourselves, then we allow someone else whose intentions or wisdom is not as great and as um, directed to our needs, because they can't know our needs. We can't let someone else care for us and us not care for and acknowledge our own needs, because nobody is going to know what we need them and more than we do.
Okay. You know you way better than anybody else does. So what
Well,
I hear you
we
saying, Tina,
should.
say that again.
I said we should. That's what that you know that's the opportunity that is before us, to understand ourselves, right? And how we feel and what we need.
And I think
So go ahead.
what you're finding, I'm gonna tell you what you might be finding, that people don't even know themselves.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And here's what happens. And I know that your listeners can relate. We wind up living performative lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are performing life. We are performing being a wife or a daughter or an employee or whatever. We are performing. And then closer to, like mid 40s and 50s, we are tired
Of
of
performing.
performing.
Yes, ma'am.
And we want more of ourself. We want to feel. We want to feel our bodies. We want to be able to think about our dreams, not leave anyone else out,
That's right.
but to include ourselves, right? We want to let go of self judgment being that default that we go to. We want to know that who we are is enough for the life that we have been given. And then we want to experience, reaching for more of ourselves and bringing more of ourselves into every aspect of our lives
There you go.
because this life is short.
It is. And what do the elders say? Somebody told me this saying, and it was so purposeful, that the days are long, but the years are short. Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
But
I think
in
that I don't know that saying, but it's brilliant.
oh, it was
It's brilliant.
purposeful when and I said to myself, oh, because we want to say, I'll be glad when this day is over. I'm ready for Friday. But before you know it, when you said, mid 40s and 50s, baby, you talking to me, and I'm thinking I'm still like in my early 20s, and it has just, sped by, we're like speeding through life. And so, what you provided for us tonight, Tina, I will tell you, it is priceless. I feel like when the ladies go over to the Inner Fitness Project, and I think let me make sure I have it here and it's pinned, because I think Morgan put it in the chat. Morgan, if you haven't, I'm trying to find it so I can pin it. Go over to the Inner Fitness Project. That's where they get their life.
That's
They do, no
exactly right.
matter where they are.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you that in the book, The Inner Fitness Revolution, there are 15 stories in the back of the book written by community members. And one story after the other is the story of getting their lives back. It is the story of finally, instead of being afraid of the fear that they've been running from, finally working, having the tools, the 14 practices, and all of the tools that you are given at the Inner Fitness Project, or that we teach at the Inner Fitness Project, that helps us be in our lives in a more conscious and empowering way.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I can tell you that you've blessed all of our souls and our hearts tonight. I feel like caregivers are going to go in there and give their loved ones a big kiss, because they feel like now that they have permission to put themselves first and really to develop a new normal. I mean, because the only thing, constant is going to be change. That's going to
That's
happen. If
exactly
it's not
right.
going to be that, it's
That's
going to be
exactly
this.
right.
So,
That's
how you
exactly right.
position yourself in that space, I feel like you give us those tools to be able to do that, to be able to position ourselves in a way that's going to be optimal for our own living, not life, because that's just existing, but our own living. Can you tell the viewers again how to connect with you? Now, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have everything written in the caption below, so they'll have links to your book, they'll have links to
Yeah.
your website, but
Yeah.
just the benefits of joining the Inner Fitness Project.
Okay. So this is something that I love to do. I, I will just say, and I'm just going to tell you, it's I've got it right here. You're going to feel safe, seen, and heard. Understand yourself and how you are wired. You're going to see yourself in life more objectively. Realize that you are not alone in your experience. Let go of self judgment, doubt, and over responsibility.
Wow.
Stop defending, justifying, and protecting. Stop feeling like you have to say the right thing or be the right way. Discover you have innate purpose and worth. Reclaim lost joy and become excited about being you.
Woo!
Our theme song is I Love Being Me. And there are a lot of people who come into the community and they don't feel like they love being me, but they sure move into that spirit and they are able to take care of their responsibilities. But the difference is they are taking care of themselves in the process. So if you go to the innerfitnessproject.com, you can sign up for the upcoming workout that is May the 3rd at 8 a.m. The Inner Fitness Revolution, it is a revolution, and there every single page will give you some tips, some tricks, some opportunity to take your power back from the lies and to pour into yourself in a way that empowers and strengthens you.
I love that. You are getting hearts, you are getting love, you are getting thank yous. You I tell you, you blessed us, and I appreciate you for accepting the request to come over here with little old us.
Yes, I love that. I love that we are in this together and that we
Yes,
if we can walk together and we can model for one another what's possible. And
yes,
it doesn't have to be dreary, right? It can
no,
be
not at all.
full of excitement and expansion.
Yeah, you make everything possible. You've given us a hope. You've given us help, and you've given us life, and it can continue. With the joining of the Inner Fitness Project, you put it out there for us, and
Yeah.
that's what we need. And I tell you, when you come on this platform, we ain't sugarcoat nothing over here. We ain't got time for that. First of all, it's already after 5 o'clock over here on the East Coast, so it's real talk. It's after 2 o'clock on the West Coast, so it's real talk over here. So I appreciate you, Tina. I love you to death. I love
Thank
following
you.
you. I love. There was a oh, we got to talk about this real quick before we go.
Okay,
So you
okay.
talked about this story. You were the lady. I think it was at a hotel. If I'm not mistaken, let me know if I'm wrong. They were at a hotel, and she was behind a desk or something, and she was very nasty to you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you were not nasty back to her.
Mm-hmm.
Like you gave
Mm-hmm.
her kindness in return to her nastiness. And I made a comment. It was flippant. It was a little flippant. I was just trying to
Mm-hmm.
be funny, but clearly people like took it seriously. I was like, well, how long before you give it back? Like, do you give it back right away, or do you hold on to, the resentment or the anger for a little while? And then people just started commenting and like, that's right, that's what I'm saying. I was like, no, 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 no. I didn't mean that. So you jumped in the chat and
Mm-hmm.
corrected all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But tell
Mm-hmm.
tell the folks before we get out of here, the power of responding to a resistant situation or a hostile situation with compassion and love.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that when you know yourself, you are empowered, and when you accept yourself, you are invincible. Because I have invested the kind of time in myself where I know that I am a gift. I know I'm a
Yeah.
gift. And so when I meet people who don't honor this gift, I take the gift away.
There you go. You can't say nothing to me anymore. I'm gonna treat you with kindness.
And that's right.
You
That's
can't have
right.
no more of my time on my
You
space.
you can't, because I value me way too much. I was made by something incredible. I'm not just going to give it away, and life is too short for me to let you in any way throw dirt on something so wonderful,
Well,
something so important,
we
something so
agree.
meaningful.
We agree. We think you are a gem. We think you are a temple. We thank you and value your worth, pouring into us, your information, your community that you're building, continuing to build, and for inviting us over. We will gladly accept. I always share resources because caregivers, they understand, the road in front of them, but they need help along that journey and they need support along that journey, and that's what you provide. Well, Tina,
Yeah, we
we're not
got
going
it
to
for
hold
you.
you anymore tonight. Thank you so much. It is always a pleasure. If we can do anything over here to help you, you know that we are down for the cause.
Well, thank you so very much, Dr. Macie. It's always fun to experience your energy. I do remember that post and I loved the little exchange. So thank you for reaching out, and we'll do it again.
Yes, we will. And thank you all. Somebody say you better say that. You a gift. Look, I gotta put this up here. It's so cute. Thank you so much again, Tina. We are empowered and we are invincible. Until next time, y'all, we will see y'all next month. Now, we still get it popping in the chats. If y'all have questions or comments and you just want to send Tina some love, please do that. But I'll have all the resources drop down below in our comment section. Y'all have a good night. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.